Hey everybody. All right. So today we're going to talk a lot about the coronavirus and its impact on Disney parks, on Disney films, just a whole slew of issues surrounding the coronavirus situation going on right now. Now, today to discuss this with me, I have a very special guest. His name is George, aka Disney Family Man 23. George, welcome back to the channel.
Thanks for having me back. It's so good, especially now, to still connect with people in the Disney community. Because, I mean, how sad is this? I'm sitting at home on my bed wearing my Tower of Terror bellhop.
I know we're all getting a little cabin fever already. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But before we get started, before we dive into today's subjects, tell everybody where they can find you.
Absolutely. Well, as you mentioned, everyone can find me on YouTube at Disney Family Man 23. Unfortunately, I haven't come up with any new videos yet, but I will. But as of right now, there's pretty much no point to it at the moment. But definitely more videos will be coming out. And also, I'm part of a Disney podcast called the Grand Circle Tour podcast, for which we will be releasing new episodes weekly on top of our detour episodes as well.
Perfect. And just so you guys know at home, I will be linking up above a link to George's channel. So please give him a click, check him out. He does a lot of great Disney parks and Disney film content. So make sure you give him a subscribe and check him out when you can. So,
and you could also follow me on Twitter at Disney George.
Perfect.
So I have a lot of different alias names, so I'm all over the place.
Perfect. So we're going to start off. I want to really discuss, and I did a video on this like a week ago, but I kind of wanted to dive a little further into it in terms of the impact that this coronavirus is having on the Disney parks. I think it was OC Register actually released an article today stating that Disney's expecting about $140 million loss for this whole coronavirus shutdown of the parks. What are your thoughts on this, George? What do you think is coming down the turnpike in regards to the parks in relation to the shutdown?
Well, I first have to say, I think with everyone else, not even just in this country, in the world, did not expect any of this to happen. And in the history of Disney in general, minus a few hurricanes, 9/11, the parks always stayed open. Almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, whether it was for guests, whether it was for cast members and nightly crew to keep maintenance of the parks, and even like the restaurants and the hotels, still stayed open around the clock. The resort and even to Disneyland was always running. So to actually see the aerial views, for it to now look like a ghost town, it's astonishing, but not in a good way. It's like one of those things where this is reality. As much as Disney is to all of us, it's an escape. It's our happy place. It's our fantasy land. But in all retrospect, it still has an impact of what's going on in today's time.
Yeah, it's really sad. I mean, out here at Disneyland, Disneyland really, it takes a lot for Disneyland to close. I mean, I think that this is only the fourth time that they've had like an unplanned, unscheduled closure. To give you an idea about the gravity of what it takes for them to close something down, 9/11 they closed down, President Kennedy's assassination. I mean, it takes a whole lot for Disney to shut these parks down. So this is a very, very big deal. And, it is kind of like you mentioned, you touched upon how it's sad to kind of see these parks empty. And I agree with you. I think it was Marty Sklar, lead Imagineer, that once said that, the sun never sets on a Disney park. There's always a Disney park open around the world. We always have those beacons of optimism, those beacons of hope always open somewhere. And for all these parks to go dark now, it's really, really sad. You know, it's a sad time. And I don't know. I hope this whole situation resolves itself very soon and we can all kind of get back to normal. But it's been really hard.
Oh, definitely. It's, as I said, Disney for me has always been an escape. And to know that you can kind of go, I mean, as of right now, I live in Pennsylvania, soon to be moving to Florida. But to know that I still have the option to say, hey, I can go to Disney whenever I can get the chance to. And for that to just be completely shut off and blocked, and you could see it, it's there, but you can't touch it. You can't go in. It's like, it's what, and I can imagine, especially for you, because you're a California local for Disneyland, and for the Florida residents for Walt Disney World. I mean, that has to be hard to be in the same city, the same state, and know it's like almost right in your backyard, but your backyard is closed for quarantine.
Yeah, yeah. It must be. It's hard for as diehard Disney fans. I think it's been really hard for all of us. This has been a really weird time. Now, I kind of wanted to touch upon, you know, how this is going to impact the plans going forward, right? Like, obviously, this is going to have a big financial impact on the parks division. So, what does that mean? You know, exactly. What are your thoughts on what that means going forward? Are we going to see a lot of cutbacks? Are some of these projects in the pipeline going to be, you know, scaled back or canceled? What are your thoughts on all that? You know, coming, you know, we're talking like months and even years down the road.
Well, let me kind of go back a little bit before the coronavirus even started, with the news of the century in the Disney community is when Bob Iger suddenly, unexpectedly stepped down as CEO and passed it on to Bob Chapek. Now, obviously, Bob Iger has done tremendous work in the amount of years that he's been CEO. I mean, with all the acquisitions, with Pixar, with Star Wars, with Marvel, now Fox, and to now, it's almost like I hesitate to wonder, and nothing against Bob Chapek. I'm going to give him a chance, just like I gave Bob Iger a chance, how I gave Michael Eisner a chance as CEO. But I just think that this could have not come at a much worse time to be switching positions right now, especially, but maybe in a sense I can say it could come positive to really see how Bob Chapek handles the company for this manner. Because just because when someone says, oh, it's the title of CEO of the Walt Disney Company, I mean, let's face reality. You're not going to wake up singing every morning. You know, you're running a big worldwide company. So in a positive way, I'd like to see what Bob Chapek can do for the parks because of this, and really see how his heart fully is as being CEO. Now, my concern is, just like with everyone else, they also have their flaws. And my tiny tiff with Bob Chapek is there are a lot of cuts that he does with the parks, and a lot of price raises, you know. So now I'd like to see how this falls into the mix with everything being quarantined and everything shut down, that no revenue is coming in whatsoever. But then at the same time, I understand that when everything reopens, Disney has to play catch up,
right?
Like with everything else. So I mean, I can understand the price raising for that matter, but also with everyone now living in a financial deficit at the moment because money's not coming in, can people really now afford more than ever to go to a Disney park after everything opens? So those are my concerns as far as, but I definitely feel that Disney has to kind of pull in the reins so they can get the money back, but also not drive in a financial hole into everyone's pockets on top of everything that's going on.
Yeah. Now you touched upon a lot of really good points here. And, you know, one thing that I like to Well, the mindset I have right now with Bob Chapek is this. I think that up until now, he's been trying to essentially impress his boss, Bob Iger, right? So he's going to do everything he can to make sure he's hitting his numbers, and he wants to move up. All right. So he's doing everything he can to get on, Bob Iger's good grace. So the glimmer of hope that I have with Bob Chapek is that I'm hoping that the budget cuts and all that cheapness that he displayed as the head of the park and resort division was there. He was doing that just to kind of move up and to make sure that his numbers were good to kind of impress his boss. And I'm hoping now that he's the CEO and he's kind of running the show, that he's less inclined to do that, being that he doesn't have to really, for lack of a better word, kiss anybody's ass to get to where he needs to be. He's already in the top spot. So that's the only kind of hope that I have. I really hope that was just a tactic that he was using to kind of get to where he wanted to be. Now that he's there, he'll kind of tone that down a little bit. I'm hoping, now, in terms of
a little faith, trust, and pixie dust there.
There you go. I mean, we got to have a little bit of optimism, a little bit of an open mind. But realistically, though, I do think that some kind of adjustment is going to have to be made. I mean, you're going to have at least a few months. I mean, I know they're saying they're going to reopen at the end of March, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think you're going to have at least a few months of these parks being closed, probably till end of April, maybe even May. They're going to have to do something to kind of offset these losses. It's going to be really interesting to see where they cut. I think that a lot of the projects that are already in the pipeline, like, for example, Avengers Campus, even the Mickey and Minnie Runaway Railway coming to Disneyland, those projects have already started, right? Those projects essentially, I think, have already been paid for. The shovel hit the dirt already. I don't think there's any stopping those. You can't stop them now, especially Avengers Campus. It's too far along. But even Mickey and Minnie Runaway Railway, they've already started construction. It's too far along to even stop that. But I am concerned, though, about the stuff going forward. Like the Avengers e-ticket that they're supposed to do for the Avengers Campus in a couple of years. Is that going to be delayed? Are they going to outright cancel it? I don't believe construction started on that yet, so that would be a little bit easier to axe if they needed to. I'm worried about the future projects more or less going forward than anything. It's scary. It really is. As a Parks fan, you don't want to see them cut a lot of stuff. We always love to get new things, new goodies, right? And it's
absolutely
it's scary.
It's one, and kind of going back a little bit just to touch upon, and the one thing that they have never done as of yet that I am aware of in the Walt Disney Company is, I appreciate that Bob Iger is still staying on board for the time being to kind of guide Chapek in that direction and still be part of the creative process even more. So the fact that this is someone that was in the front lines as to pretty much crossing T's and dotting I's on all these acquisitions now. Now he's kind of taking a behind the scenes type of role to say, you know what, I'm going to be part of the creative side of the company. And I think that could really help the company in the long run as well for the time being until, he's ready to fully retire from the company. But to go on to what you're saying, my concern, well, at first, when I knew that the parks were closing, I thought, well, there's a little glimmer of hope. Since they have no one in their way, they can just bang out this construction. They got no one in their way. And then when they announced that the construction's delayed, I'm like, oh, come on. It's like,
it's frustrating. It's frustrating because, now would be the perfect time to at Disneyland to go ahead and like bulldoze the people mover tracks. You have nobody in the parks to worry about. You can go in there and just bulldoze those tracks now. You're going to have at least a few weeks, probably a few months. But yeah, like you said, then they cancel the construction. It's like what,
you can't win here.
We can't win. It's absolutely crazy.
It's like with the Avengers Campus, it was so close. They actually gave an opening date of July 18th. And it's like, where do I feel that it still could possibly open up in the summer? There's a slight chance, but being that it's a late July opening, I feel that it may even open towards the end of summer, beginning of fall.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that can sort of kind of hit Disney in that manner, because if everything that even goes with Ratatouille in the France Pavilion at Epcot, that was ready for a summer 2020 release. They didn't give an opening date, but it was going to be ready for summer. But now that the construction is completely held up, everything that was supposed to be ready and open for summer is not going to be ready. And I think Disney was banking on the summer tourism because of the numbers that were kind of low, of the expectations that they were, people were claiming that Galaxy's Edge was a fail and it wasn't a big opening and what have you. I still don't believe in that, but that's just my opinion. I just feel that it was just timing. People wanted to wait for Rise of the Resistance to open. And especially now with this summer coming, that was the best time to say, okay, now people are going to flood the gates of Galaxy's Edge because now everything is opened. We're opening up Avengers Campus, where the Ratatouille ride's going to be open, and now there's a possibility that none of it's going to be ready for summer.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the big question is, how is it now going to impact the summer vacation packages that people were relying on to say, well, we were going into the summer, but if things are going to open in the fall, let's just push it back to the fall.
Yeah. And excuse me. And not only now is it affecting this whole Corona thing is really impacting Disney in a big way, because not only is it affecting the parks, excuse me, but it's also impacting big time the stock price. I don't know if you follow the stock market at all, but it was just like last month, it was like 145 a share. And now it's all the way down to hovering around 90, 95 a share.
Okay, the last I saw it was at 105, so he even dropped more.
Oh yeah, it's under 100 now. It's under 100 now. And so because of that, there's been a lot of word that Apple is interested in possibly making a bid for Disney. What do you think about that? Would you support that? Do you think that's a good idea? Or do you think the rumors are a bunch of bunk? It's fake news. What are your thoughts on the whole Apple Disney thing?
Well, my thoughts are that I'm not denying nor confirming that it's either true or a rumor, but I mean, I do know that there was talks even years ago, because when Steve Jobs was affiliated with the company, when he was with Pixar and everything, I mean, Steve Jobs was the biggest shareholder of the Walt Disney Company, and him, attached to Apple and Pixar, and then Disney buying Pixar, it all meshed together. That they all were linked in some way. And I think if Steve Jobs was around today, I think I would be a little bit more comfortable, because he knew every kind of product between the three entities of the company, which would be Apple, Pixar, Disney. He had his hands in something of each company. But I think even to that, the whole notion of Apple buying Disney, I mean, I know that they're not in the position right now, but I would rather Disney buy Apple, because I just can't put my head around another company owning Disney. It's running Disney. I just can't picture it.
Yeah, it's weird. And yeah, I agree with you about Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was a complete and total revolutionary. He was an innovator, a visionary. He was essentially our generation's Walt Disney in a lot of ways, right? He changed the world in so many different ways. The new CEO of Apple, and I'm not a hardcore Apple fan, but the new CEO of Apple, from what I gather, and I could be wrong, but he seems, Tim Cook, he seems a little bit more of a kind of, rest on your laurels kind of guy. I mean, I don't feel like Apple has been doing a whole lot of innovating lately. It seems like they're just kind of releasing things oh, okay, we'll release a bigger version of this, a smaller version of that. We'll do different colors in this, different color. It just doesn't feel the same as when Steve Jobs had it. He was really taking a lot of risk, really shooting for the fences and trying new things and trying to change the world. And Tim Cook, he's not a bad CEO, but he's not a risk taker like Jobs was. So I don't know how I would feel really about him taking over Disney. I don't even know, to be honest with you, if the government would even approve that merger, because with Disney now owning Fox and then Apple being as massive as it is, it just seems like the company would be, really skating on. It would really almost be too powerful in a lot of ways. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's a huge company.
And I think, honestly, with everything that Disney has gone through, as you said, with the acquisition of Fox and even all the other acquisitions throughout the years when Steve Jobs was alive, and with Pixar and Lucasfilm and Marvel, it's almost like it was all done in vain if this goes on, because you're pretty much just handing everything to Apple. And I really don't think, as far as a company as a whole, that the Walt Disney Company would give that up without a good sparring fight. I don't think they'd let it go that easy, just to say, oh, okay, well, Apple wants it, here you go.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it's going to happen. And, this rumor comes up every 6 to 8 months. I've heard this rumor rear its head like at least 3 or 4 times in the last few years. I would really doubt. And plus, Apple and Disney are on really good terms together. Like, Bob Iger used to be on the Apple board. He only recently resigned in like November because of the Disney Plus thing. I guess it was a conflict of interest because Apple had their streaming service. But Bob Iger was on the Apple board for years. The companies are friends. So unless it's a mutual, kind of desire to merge, I don't see Apple going in trying to do any kind of hostile takeover or anything like that. I do think that it will be, either they both want it or it's not going to happen,
And this is what a lot of people have to take in consideration as well, that if this was something where Disney was dropping their numbers on Wall Street because the company was failing, then I would have a higher expectation to say, there's a possibility these rumors are true. But the only reason why Disney is dropping their numbers is because everything is dropping in their numbers right now.
Exactly. The whole market is down.
Yeah. There's a purpose why Disney's numbers are dropping. It's not because of the company. It's because of what's going on currently. Exactly.
Now, I kind of want to talk a little bit. I kind of want to stay on the whole, film side of things right now. And I wanted to talk to you about, because today it was announced that Disney's going to release Onward, Pixar's Onward, which I believe is still in theaters. It only came out like 2 or 3 weeks ago. They're going to release it on digital.
In theaters on March 8th.
March 8th. So we're not even a full month in yet. It's already going to be on digital. And I think on April 3rd, it comes to Disney Plus. Obviously, this is a reaction to the coronavirus situation because nobody's going to the theater. What are your thoughts on that? And how do you think this coronavirus thing is going to impact how we watch movies? Are big movie theater chains even going to be around in a few months? Are they going to be able to survive this kind of hit, this kind of blow? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, after I found out that Onward was hitting onto Disney Plus, my initial reaction was, geez, I could have saved money on saving on a ticket. Yeah. But in all seriousness, I think that for me, even prior to the coronavirus hitting into the theaters, that the way people watch, media, how they watch platforming television, everything is through a streaming service now. Everything. So I feel that, unfortunately, just like with drive-ins, that movie theaters are becoming somewhat of a dying art form, so to speak. Yeah. And I remember when I think it was Steven Spielberg who had touched upon the issue that I can't remember, where he was kind of on the defense of just releasing movies on a streaming service because, when he worked in the era, it was, you go to the movies, right. Your escape, so now everything is so high up in with as I said, the streaming platforms and everything. So I think it was already on a downward spiral as far as movie theaters go, in my honest opinion. But now with the coronavirus, I think that with movie theaters, they're not where they're a major company like the Walt Disney Company or Apple, where they can actually bounce back quickly and say, okay, we have money, let's restore this. I think that they are going to take a major hit, to where I think a lot of theaters are going to end up closing around the US. And I think people are now going to get used to the fact of saying, oh, well, here's a new movie, here's a new television show, boom, I can get it on my TV
right,
for $6.99 a month or $70 a year. It's like, why pay? And I mean, and let's be honest too, movie theaters aren't cheap anymore. I mean, it's $8 for a box of candy.
Yeah, I know. The concessions at the theater are absolute highway robbery. And, you know, I'm in a weird position with movie theaters, because I actually do not like the theater going experience, personally. I like to watch things at home. I don't care about the big screen or the crazy sound system. I would love to just watch a movie directly at home when it comes out. I like the idea of sitting at home, cozy in bed, having snacks, being able to pause it, go to the bathroom, come back. I love that. I prefer that. But it's not about what I like. I mean, I understand that the majority of the public prefer to go to the theater. A lot of people enjoy the theater going experience. So even though that it's not for me personally, it's something that I don't really love, I would not want to see that whole industry collapse. I think that it should continue to have a place in our society, you know? And I would be sad. I would be sad to see that go if that's the route that it will end up taking. But you're absolutely right, though. I mean, the theaters were struggling before coronavirus, and now they're taking a major hit, a major financial hit, probably for months on end. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the smaller chains end up folding, and there's only a few like AMC and what have you that remain standing at the end of the day. And you know, and also keep in mind, it's in Disney's best interest to do a lot of direct to consumer stuff, because, you know, they have to split the profits with the theater chains, right? So if they can give you the option to get like a movie like Onward on opening day digitally, you know, they get 100% of that money that way. But if they release it in theaters, they have to share it with the theater. So Disney, I think, would prefer to do the whole, you know, direct to consumer thing if they can get away with that. You know, maybe not necessarily putting it directly on like Disney Plus on opening day, but if they did like you know, you release it for like $19 for digital for like 2 or 3 months, that would actually be more beneficial to Disney than releasing in theaters, because they don't have to share any of that, you know?
Yes, and I think that's where Disney is going to end up realizing, like, hey, why not take the whole cake instead of a piece? You know, it's
right.
You know, and I think that would be the way to go, because starting tonight, the digital for Onward goes forth, and then April 3rd is when it goes on to Disney Plus. And I also think, you know, with everything up in the air right now of not knowing, you know, what's going to reopen, when is it going to reopen, I have a strong feeling that Onward is now going to pave the way for the live action Mulan, for the Jungle Cruise, and even possibly for the next Disney Pixar movie, Soul. I think, honestly, that Disney right now, especially needing as much money as they can possibly get, why not take 100% of the funds and just go with this route right now? And I think the digital downloads and Disney Plus is going to be the way to go, I think, for the next several big Disney movies.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I completely agree. Now, staying on the topic of Disney Plus. Now, everyone's in quarantine here in California. They issued last night, actually, a mandatory lockdown. We're all supposed to stay at home unless you're going to like the supermarket or the hospital, or you work at one of these places like a hospital or a police station, but you're supposed to stay home otherwise, right? So everyone's in lockdown. So what are your suggestions in regards to Disney Plus for some cool TV shows or movies while everyone's in quarantine? What are you watching on Disney Plus that you recommend to everybody while everyone's bored at home, quarantined?
Well, For me, I mean, Disney Plus is like the saving grace right now, especially with everything, with me being at home. And um, for me, uh, I constantly keep on repeating this to people, and I will keep on saying it, and I'm proud of it. I'm a 90s kid, so that Disney afternoon on, the Saturday mornings or at 2, 3 o'clock, after school, my classics are like with Goof Troop, Darkwing Duck, um, Gargoyles. Like, I love those kind of shows. And even on top of shows that I haven't seen in 10, 15 plus years, like they have the animated series of The Little Mermaid, Hercules. The one that I am a little bit disappointed of that they didn't add Aladdin on there yet.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I never thought. Yeah, they did have an Aladdin show, didn't they? Huh? They never added that on Disney Plus.
No, not yet. They have the Aladdin. No, I'm sorry. They have the Little Mermaid, Hercules, and Emperor's New School is what it's called, from the Emperor's New Groove. But I mean, as far as I know, that they're going to attach everything from the Disney library onto Disney Plus, excluding a few things, which I have my own personal opinion on that as well, but we'll save that for another time. But as also what we've been doing as well, for our family time at night, we've been picking Disney movies that we haven't even seen yet, like some of the older classics that I've heard of, but I've never really sat down to really watch them. Like, I'm trying to think of, what was the one we just watched? We watched the Ugly Dash Hunt.
Oh, I love that movie. I love that movie.
I mean, that became one of my new favorites.
Yeah.
We watched both Parent Trap movies. We watched the original with Haley Mills and then the one with Lindsay Lohan. And then we watched, what was the other one? But I can't remember the other one, but I know we've been watching a lot of the older classic movies and then like the 90 television show of what I grew up on. Like, that's like one of my biggest things to watch.
Yeah, that I've been watching a lot of the old school Disney movies. There's a great one, and I don't know if you guys watching have seen this. I'm a huge Disney fan. I've never even heard of this movie until I got Disney Plus. It's called Those Callaways, and it's a 1960s era movie about this rural family, and they're trying to get like protection for the geese that migrate to their property every year. I know it sounds weird, but it's actually such a good movie. It really surprised me. I love it. It's called Those Callaways. It's on Disney Plus right now. Another show that I cannot recommend enough is High School Musical, the series. I watched it. Initially, I watched the first episode out of curiosity and ended up getting hooked on it. And I fell in love with the cast. They're phenomenal. The whole show was so well done. Finale was super emotional. If you haven't seen High School Musical, the series yet, definitely watch that. It was so good. And yeah, like you, I've been just kind of catching up on all the old school Disney movies. I watched, The Ugly Dotson. I watched the old school Parent Trap. Blackbeard's Ghost. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it was with Dean Jones, I think his name is. And that movie, never even heard of it until Disney Plus. Watched it. It was really funny, a cool, lighthearted movie. But there's a lot. That's the thing I love about Disney Plus. A lot of these movies that you probably would never know about or even give a chance, if not for the streaming service, you're able to watch it now. Like I would have never have watched, Those Callaways if I had to go to the store and buy the Blu-ray. But on Disney Plus, it opened up the opportunity to do that. And that's the beauty of this streaming service. And it's also great for people with like young kids. Like you have young kids, and you can sit down and share these old school movies with your kids and kind of bring classic Disney to, that generation and kind of let them know how these movies were. It's such a great platform and such a great way to kind of like, take in all this old school Walt era, content. I just love it. I absolutely love the whole service.
And I love how it's not just movies, it's not just documentaries, it's not just specials, it's not just shorts, it's all of the above.
Yes. It's everything. It's everything. So it's been a good time. So you guys at home, use the quarantine. When life hands you lemons, just make lemonade, right? Just like use the time now. If you're not working, if you're stuck at home, watch the old school Disney movies, or watch something that you've never seen before, or just kind of catch up on that stuff. You might as well. If we're all stuck at home, we might as well have fun with it, right? A little bit. But George, I want to thank you so much for coming on again. Thank you so much, my friend. So once again, remind them where they can find you.
You can find me on YouTube at Disney Family Man 23. You can follow me on Twitter at Disney George. And you could also listen up to me and my other friends on the Grand Circle Tour podcast. And you can listen to that on Apple. You could you could even find it on YouTube. You just bring up the the Grand Circle Tour podcast. And you could even follow me on Facebook. Just bring up my name, George Falcione. I'm there. I love talking Disney, and it's always great. It's always nice to be on your channel and have these discussions.
Yeah, I love having you. You're always welcome on here. Thank you so much, George, for coming on. And everybody out there, stay safe, stay healthy. Listen to whatever they're saying. If they're saying to stay indoors, stay indoors. The more we all comply with this stuff, the faster this thing is going to fizzle out and we can get back to our normal lives. So Absolutely. Let's just, do what we can. But thank you all so much for watching, and have a magical day.
Bye.